Hi, I'm Tessa, a veteran educator working in the field of special education.
And I'm Kim, mom of 2 autistic boys and a late diagnosed autistic person myself.
And welcome to Totally Over the Spectrum, where we dive into embracing autism through understanding and support. Welcome to episode 37, where we discuss parenting level 1s and level 3, to which you are the expert on.
All right, well, let's start with, a lot of people don't know the different levels or what they mean. So level 1 is basically having lower support needs, and level 3 is having higher support needs. In the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, they give you levels, right? So you can have level 1, level 2, or level 3.
Yes, and before the language used was mild, moderate, or severe.
Right, so those terminologies are gone, and now we have levels. So I have 2 kids. Alex is level 1, and Peter is level 3. Peter's also non-speaking. So I really wanted to talk about the differences and the similarities in parenting kids who are at those different levels.
Okay. And I have, strategies and parenting tips, that I can bring forward and show you the yin and the yang of each one of those tips that apply to level 1 and level 3 at the same time.
So I thought the first thing I'd talk about is how parenting is pretty much a thankless job. And that's across the board. Whether your kids are neurotypical or neurodivergent, parenting is just thankless.
It is. Even though our kids do thank us, it is still a thankless job.
For the most part. You have loss of your personal freedom and time. You have financial strains. You have emotional and mental stress. You have strains on your relationships. And you can, I don't know how people do it, but career and personal ambitions, I don't know how they balance both.
Well, I think it's very difficult to balance both. And I think one has to take a backseat to the other at some point or the other. And they do flip back and forth. So kudos to those who manage to find that fine line of perfection.
Now, if I haven't dissuaded everyone from having kids, or probably if you're here, you have kids, all of those things are exacerbated when your child has a disability. Mm-hmm. Because you have to invest more time in caring and providing all of the supports that they need. So out there in the world, there is this general misconception that level 1 autism is easier than level 3.
Okay.
There are a whole group of people who believe that level 3 is what autism really is, and level 1 shouldn't even be called autism because they're so different.
Okay.
And that makes no sense to me. I think it's completely misguided. And it's very much someone on the outside looking in.
Okay. Which is sad, because when you've been given a diagnosis, it's a diagnosis, which means you meet the criteria for it.
And the criteria is the same.
Yes. Yep.
Right? We don't call it a spectrum for nothing. It doesn't mean there's a high end and a low end. It just means you have collectively the same group of traits. And how those traits affect you is different.
Yes.
And that's all that means.
That's it. Absolutely.
So low support needs doesn't mean no support needs.
Mm-hmm. Same as a child, a neurotypical child doesn't mean a neurotypical child does not have needs. Of course they have needs. So let's take that off the table. Let's just take no needs off the table, because it does not belong when you are a parent, period.
I know that it's different. Sure, I can leave Alex home alone by himself. And I can't currently leave Peter home. Alex is an adult, for people who are wondering. I can't currently leave Peter home alone. Like, we're working on that. But Peter doesn't periodically have existential crises either.
Yeah, I agree.
And for anyone who doesn't know what an existential crisis is, it's basically a term that someone intensely questions the meaning of life or the value and purpose of their life. And it can come with some really deep and painful feelings of anxiety and stress, and sometimes even depression. Like, it is kind of a big deal.
That's Alex in a peanut shell, kind of minus the anxiety or the stress or depression, because he does not display or experience or express any of those.
This is the only time he gets anxious, is when he goes, and it cycles. Sometimes it's a long cycle, but he does sometimes end up back there, and that is the only time he really becomes anxious. And I've had to go to school and talk him down. And yeah.
Okay. All
Guess
right.
you didn't know that one.
No,
Sorry,
I did not
share.
know that one.
That's a story for another day.
Okay. All right.
So I would argue that the complexity of the difficulties that I experience as a caregiver are more profound with Alex than with Peter. Sure, I have to make sure that the door is locked, otherwise Peter is going to run off into the world and be gone. But Alex is a ball of anxiety and depression when he questions what he's doing with his life.
Yeah. They are very deep, profound, emotional and mental thought processes. And for me, that is far more work than, exerting physical energy that Peter requires and enjoys in order to regulate and be content and happy.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. Which one of those scenarios is going to be more difficult is going to depend on the person and their personality type and what they're able to deal with.
Yeah.
So for some, one might be easier than the other.
I mean, for me, when I'm posed with a question, depending upon the circumstances, I like to take time and understand the question and different aspects of the question and, have a response that is able to predict, 2 or 3 steps down the line in order to navigate the conversation far more effectively. Where Alex is concerned, right? When I'm responding to Alex, I have to really stop and think about what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, why I'm going to say it, in order for the true essence of the meaning to be related to Alex, because I know he's going to take it and internalize it and then, dissect it and give it back to me. And I'm going to go, what the hell is this? Right? So where with Peter, he's like, hey, well, I go, let's go do A, B, and C. And he's like, let's do this. Right? And he's happy and content. And he requires more of the physical interaction and the emotional interaction, but not so much of the mental interaction and dissection as Alex does.
So another key component to autism is social skills, right? Autism is defined in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual as having difficulty in social interaction and social communication. So that is the same for everyone. The diagnosis is the same, but how it affects everyone is different. Mm-hmm. So level 3, it's going to be very visually apparent.
It is.
That's just the way it is. So Peter is non-speaking and not proficient in expressive communication. So that's his ability to communicate his thoughts and wants and needs. Level 1, there are lots of individuals who are level 1 that are really good at masking. And we do, thank you. That's me. We have an entire episode on that. So I will put a link to that at the end. I was able to study and learn how neurotypical people interact and become pretty good at hiding autistic differences, because that's how you get along with people. Mm-hmm. But it comes with a price. It's exhausting, it's stressful, it's anxiety inducing. It can lead to meltdowns, shutdowns, burnout, which again, I'll put a link to the description,
discussed, yeah,
because we've talked about that. If we compare Peter versus Alex versus me, Peter isn't bothered about social skills at all. He has no anxiety surrounding it. Couldn't be bothered. Alex isn't currently interested in being socially active and has little to no anxiety about it. I have tried really hard to fit in my entire life, and I am absolutely riddled with anxiety around social interactions.
Which, as a person who's known you for quite a while and interacts with you on a regular basis, is very hard to detect from you because you have such a high level of masking, right? Which at the end of the day leaves you mentally and emotionally tapped out.
Done. Absolutely done. And to ask me to be socially active, say on a Friday night, and then again Saturday afternoon, I'm like, no, that's no. Still need to recover from Friday. Can't do Saturday too. That's too much. Thank you.
Yep. So setting healthy boundaries for yourself.
That's right. So really, in this scenario, who's having more difficulty? Level 1, level 3?
Well, that depends upon the person providing the care, I think.
Right. Peter requires full-time support, even in social interactions. So, yeah, that is more difficult for the caregiver, but is it more difficult for him? No. I'd say no. He's fine.
Yep. Peter couldn't care less. That's his personality too, right? Your level 3s, they're in the moment, right? They're in their own space, in their own time, in their own, perspective of things. They're very, rarely bothered by that interaction or lack of it, right? What does upset them is maybe the environment or stimulants that they don't like, that is causing them to dysregulate. But social interaction, probably not. No, I would agree with you.
I think it's important to note that there's oftentimes, for level 3, the comorbidity of having also an intellectual disability.
Yes, there is.
So that it's something to
keep in consideration. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's talk about sensory issues. So Peter's non-speaking, so he can't always tell me directly when he's having a sensory issue. So I get to play this really fun game of process of elimination, which in my mind is kind of like playing Clue.
Yeah.
To find out who done it. And you don't get a board or pieces or instructions to play. Is it the kid who with the high-pitched wail in the grocery store? Or is it the tag in his t-shirt with the demand avoidance trigger? Don't know. It would appear to be easier with Alex because he has excellent language skills.
Yes.
But it isn't. Because Alex has
It recorded?
Fatigue, hunger, pain, or how you're feeling.
Yep. To the point where he's turned around to me and said, literally, I think I'm dying. Why is that, Alex? I'm very lethargic right now. And I'm like, Alex, have you eaten today? Why? I don't think so. I said, well, Alex, one needs nutrition and food and fluids in our system in order to keep us an operating level. Not optimum level, like just basic operating level. But it's too much effort to go to the fridge or get a muffin.
We might not even know we're hungry. And we've had this discussion. Many years we've had this discussion. And I say, is it that you don't want to get up and get something when you start to feel hungry? Or is it that you don't know that you're hungry? And he says, well, sometimes it's both. So sometimes, I might be a little bit hungry, but if you ignore it, it goes away.
Yeah. Yep. So, yep. There you go. Level 1, perfectly able to communicate our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and totally ignore the essence of life.
They will both wear shoes that are too small and cause discomfort and pain without saying anything. Both of them.
So where's the discrepancy?
For these two, there is none in that regard.
There isn't.
So one is not easier than the other.
It's just different strategies and different approaches that you have to apply when working with them or caregiving them. And I think you made the analogy that they all have the same tools. It's that Alex is able to use those tools far more independently, where Peter does not.
Unless it's the case of food, in which Alex is not independent and needs to be regularly reminded, prompted, or fed.
Where Peter is more than capable to cook his own dinner pretty much every night.
Yeah. And if Peter's hungry, he'll just go in the kitchen and get food.
Yep. So that's giving you clear examples of where the difficulties and lie between a level 1 and a level 3 that are the same.
And what it really shows is that autism is so specific to the individual. It is so different for everyone that Alex could starve to death as a level 1 and Peter would never starve to death as a level 3.
Yep. He would eat his brother if it came down to it.
I mean, if push came to shove, I
Yep.
think he probably
Yes,
would.
he would. My money's always on Peter.
He will survive.
Yes.
He will survive the zombie apocalypse. Alex, first one gone.
Yep.
That's the way it is. So let's talk about support needs,
Okay.
because this would seem like a no-brainer because it's sort of in the title, right? Level 1, lower support needs than level 3. So that seems inherently easier because lower means less. But I think that's really fundamentally where the issue lies for people who think that 3 is easier. Level 3 requires more support from other people. That's the difference,
Yes.
right? Level 1 is often not bothering people with their needs, right? I hide it all the time. So society says, well, your level 1 autistic person isn't bothering me with their autism, so it's not a problem. Because autism is only a problem when it's bothering somebody else.
And yes, actually, I can speak from numerous times of, of accessing the community with a level 1 where people kind of look at it, it's like, oh, there's something off. Can't quite pinpoint it. Where when I work with a level 3 person, it's like Moses parting the Red Sea. Everybody just clears the path for us, right? So it's very evident about what the level of bother to society is versus a level 1.
It's the difference between having a visible disability and an invisible
Yes.
disability.
Yep.
And then people don't think, it's invisible, so it's not bothering me. It's not a problem. For level 3, people also often talk about all the things that autistic individuals are never going to do. That seems like this really big hang up for people. Like, sure, level 1 might be having difficulties, but level 3s, they're never going to do things. They're never going to have what they would call a typical adult life. They're never going to have meaningful relationships. They're never going to hold a conversation. They're never going to be truly accepted. Every autistic person is different. Every situation is different. But I think in my family situation, Peter is not bothered by any of those things.
No, he's not. He's perfectly content.
So why would I be bothered if he's not bothered?
He's happy, he's content, and the world is great to him. I think a lot of people in society would, as we say, give their left arm to be in Peter's position of content and happiness.
I believe that Peter has meaningful relationships. You're his most favorite person. I think that there are lots of people out there who love and accept him exactly the way he is.
Oh, he is. He's always fun and easygoing, and in the education field, I'm sure is, he's the poster child that we want to work with.
Yeah, he generally speaking, I've had his educational assistants come up to me over the years and say, "Oh, I just love him so much." The kids in his class growing up, grade school, they all loved him. They all wanted to work with him. So that doesn't sound so bad. And I know that it's different for everybody. I know that Peter, just his personality, he tends to be very charming, very charismatic, but he's also not bothered. He's got these people coming up to him and he's like, I'm not really interested in hanging out with you, thank you.
Yep.
I think that yes, it is true that his adult life may not look typical the way people imagine it should be, but that doesn't mean that it won't be beautiful.
I agree with you, because there's going to be neurotypical people who are not going to have a typical fulfilling life as, society dictates, It's just a very few people that are fortunate enough to have that.
I think there are a lot of neurotypical people in the world living what would be considered to be a typical adult life who are not happy.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that has to be the gold standard.
It should change. The language around that and that expectation should change.
I think it's the sadness that the the society or the person in society feels when they look at Peter and they think, oh, but he's never going to be able to do these things. And I would be sad if I couldn't do those things. Sure, you would be sad, but he isn't. That's a you thing,
That's
not
what you
a him
think.
thing.
Why are you burdening him with your downfalls or perceived downfalls?
Yeah.
Those are not his. So it is, this projection is placed on Peter or level threes by society and not who they actually are, which is really sad.
So, for me, in a nutshell, I don't think one is easier than the other. I think that they are so different, and not you can't really compare them. Like, I know that yes, I have Peter's going to need supports maybe longer than Alex might need supports. But I think even neurotypical people can say that even though their kids grow up, doesn't mean they don't need their parents.
Yeah, and there are some personalities that are always going to need their parents and need that extra support and, check in on versus others, right? So it all depends. Even neurotypical people, you're going to have your high independence and your lower independence. And that's what life is, and that's what makes us unique. And we should embrace that.
And I think if the goal of life is happiness, Peter's winning.
Yes, I would like to be in Peter's shoes.
Absolutely.
Alrighty.
So that is the end of my list. What do you have?
Okay, well, I have more of the strategies in which you can use that benefit both level ones and threes. So here goes my list. So I think number one is creating strong bonds, right? So am I being animated here?
That's all right. I'm just
Okay.
turning down a little bit.
All right.
It's all good. You're good. Continue.
Strong bonds are crucial, right? Because when you're dealing with creating those strong bonds for a level three, you're going to help them connect that emotional regulating piece. Where your level one, you're going to help the strong bonds in creating that emotional intelligence piece. So it's the same it's the same strategy, but which can be applied to your level one and level three. So consistency and structure, right? For level threes, it's far more important for regulation and to be able to be in that, that sweet spot where they're able to stretch those boundaries of learning. And for the likes of level one, it's to remind them to be able to do, to be able to eat, right? Like we've just had a discussion about Alex would forget to eat, but Peter would never, right? So having a, consistent and structure is beneficial to both.
Yeah. If I don't have structure, I will fall apart.
The other one is positive reinforcement, right? You need them for both, right? Alex is going to thrive and be in emotionally far more regulated state. And so will Peter when it comes to positive reinforcement. So it's the same strategy, but used in different aspects is beneficial to both. So I'm just bringing the commonalities of strategies that could be used regardless of any level. And these are strategies you can use for neurotypical kids, right? This is just strategies that...
We're all human.
Yeah. So I'm just going down a list of strategies that are going to be beneficial to both and giving you examples on how 1 and 3 both require them. The other one is embrace challenges, right? Challenges is going to build the emotional resilience and intelligence for Alex to be able to navigate society and social situations far more effectively in the future. As he makes mistakes and learns from them. And those challenges for Peter, it's going to build, he's going to lay the foundations for a better platform of learning for the next step of learning, right? So, embracing those challenges is growth either way. Celebrate the successes, right? One could be, a lot of verbal praises and, for Alex and, way to go, kiddo. Where Peter, you can say, hey, I think you did a great job. You get to do this today.
Yeah, verbal praise doesn't actually work for Peter. That is a personality thing. Alex loves verbal praise. It feels good for him, but Peter is the opposite. He really dislikes being praised.
Yeah. So it's the, it's the same strategy, but implied in two different ways, right?
Yeah, he needs a different sort of. This is also personality, not just. There's no clear distinction for me between being autistic and your personality. I know people get really upset and they're like, autism is your personality. It's how your brain works.
Yes.
So it is part of your personality. It's part of who you are. It's part of in everything you do. So I don't know where the line is where this is an autistic trait and this is just who I am.
It is you. It encompasses who you are. So you cannot divide one from the other. It's what makes you whole. So that's the way I look at it. So, and then my last strategy is respect, right? The same level of respect is demanded by both level 1s and level 3s. There is no distinction, right? The respect you give level 1 is the same respect you give level 3. I would not, differentiate between the two. I respect Peter and Alex the same. My approach and my language will be different with Peter as it would be with Alex, but it is the same level of respect.
Yeah, that's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine and she said to me, "Have you watched Love on the Spectrum?" Which I have not. And she said she had no problem with the people on there, the autistic people on the show. But what she had a problem with was the way that they were spoken to or treated. Because I haven't seen the show, but my understanding is that some of the people on the show might be more level 2. And I guess there was a parent on there who was talking to her adult son like he was a child. Like, "Oh, and what did you do on your date?" And that's, I would never. How would you? That seems so. That's ick. Like my whole body is disgusted by this.
Yeah.
I don't speak to Peter that way.
No.
Even though Peter is non-speaking, I speak to him at a level that is appropriate for him.
Yes.
And if your son is out dating, I doubt that is an appropriate level to be speaking to him at. So you're right. That to me falls under respect. Why aren't you treating this person with the respect and the dignity that they deserve to have?
Yeah. Regardless if they're level 1 or level 3, dignity and respect, period. Like it's not up for debate. So those are my, strategies in which I apply to both level 1s and 3s, but the approach in which I take and the tools in which I provide them are going to be different, but it's the same strategy. So I'm just saying, reinforcing what you had to say, that parenting level 1 and level 3 are very different, but they're still the same level of parenting.
Yeah, it's just because you find something difficult doesn't mean that someone else is going to find that same thing difficult as a parent.
Absolutely. So that leads me to wondering, since why would you want to and have chose to get a diagnosis in your 50s? I think that is kind of like we've gone through this whole parenting and stuff. So what was the need for you to get your diagnosis? I think it's a great question to maybe you can answer on our next podcast.
I would love to answer that question on the next podcast.
Okay. Until then, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and as always, share your comments and thoughts with us. We love it. Have a great day.
We'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in. If you know someone who might find this episode helpful, feel free to share. Also, check out our website and socials linked in the description.